Hey, it's Joe Glines from the-automator, and in this video, I'm going to walk through using Claude's data analysis like extension kind of plugin. So if you're a paid subscriber, now you can feed it CSV files, which I hate CSV files, but you can do some interesting stuff with it. Not in love with it, but it's it's got promise. Let's go ahead and switch over here. Now this, I just exported it. This is a flat file representing each month of monthly sales activity and other data points, right? So we're just going to import this in. It's up through this month, going back through for 3 years of data. So I'm going to close that. Don't save. I didn't change anything. I was just seeing how the columns broke. So I'm going to get the path to this. It's get active path, by the way. It's a great little tool we wrote. So attach. Oh, by the way, before I do that, if you have a paid account, you come in here and do feature preview, and you can turn on this analysis tool. That's where you want to turn that on. Also, if you're going to do formulas and stuff, you might turn that on. And if you want to import PDFs, I played with this morning a little. It's pretty cool. You can import PDFs and do stuff, which you would think you were able to, but you're not until you turn that on. So anyway, so I'm going to attach my CSV file. So here I already have that path. That's why I wanted to grab that. And I'm going to say, let's see, give me some general information about my sales. Now here, as with most things in data science, it's much better if you know your goal and figure that out ahead of time before you start playing with the data. And it is writing the Python. So I think this is Python code, and then it's going to execute it and show you sometimes on a graph, sometimes it just has like frequencies or distribution count. My background is in using really data science stuff. I did about 20 years doing as a data scientist with SPSS and SAS and Systat, and I played a little bit with Python and R, but really SPSS was what I was really good at. So here it's got some numbers, cumulative revenue for, that must be for this year. I think that's not even right though. The highest revenue in the month was 9,000. Business is fluctuations, yeah. And we weren't even really charging stuff a couple years ago, so there's so much revenue been consistently higher than earlier periods. Yeah. So it's giving you a little summary. But how about let's can you display bar chart on monthly sales? Now, I don't know what it needed that program for. It didn't do any graphing or anything, but I would have thought that other stuff was done behind the scenes. But here, it's going to import some sort of a bar chart from React, look like, and start building my chart for me. And in a lot of tools, this would be really. Oh, that's interesting. The which is how accounting is typically done. They put the current time near, to the left, and the past. No, that is that makes no sense. Monthly revenue, that's not right. That's like totally wrong. 150. Yeah, oh yeah, we made $150 in revenue. Yeah, that. Very wrong. Yeah, this is the joys of working with an AI tool. You got to know your data, and that is ridiculously wrong. I don't know what it was. It was some. It's almost like they divided it by sales, which would make sense because I started charging for our tools, our software, about 9 months ago-ish, somewhere in there, and our sales drastically declined. That's not at all right. What in the world? What is this time period? May 22nd, June 20. That's crazy. Those numbers are also off. I don't know what it's looking at that would have those, unless it's looking at a specific subset of sales, like our Hero program brings in about that much per month. Maybe that's what it's counting, the recurring revenue from them. Now this is an outlier, although I don't think it was. Well, that was about right. And now, okay, actually, this is about right. This is about right now what we're bringing in a month in revenue. We did have a little dip there. That does seem right. Now, here, I would say, hey, you know what? This is really an outlier, and if I was to project Let's say I wanted to, can you project out 2 years? Now, as you interact with Claude, every time you ask a question, it takes all your previous stuff and shoves it back into there, which is why it takes longer and longer to calculate the new data points. So, and here, I don't know why it's not scrolling. It should auto scroll to this current stuff. And let's see if it does a locally weighted average. And also, there's other things we can put in here. And we could put like the recurring, or I'm not sure in the data. I should go look at it. Oh, that's interesting. What in the world? Projected revenue, historical revenue. That is so weird. Why? I don't know what in the world. That's wild. Yeah, it makes no sense. I don't know what it chose there. Yeah. Our projection should be in the future, not overlaid. That's lunacy. That this which I've seen they'll do stuff like that. Yeah. It should have been over to the right, and they use it like a dashed line to show you, to let you realize that's a projection, not the actual real data. And you can see in there was some cyclical stuff and seasonal, patterns and trends. And that's where doing like an ARIMA model does a much better job of taking stuff like that into account. This instance so far has been, oh, well, that's okay. 2 year, but that, all right, well, now it didn't even show me my past ones. And okay, you're expecting me to suddenly have a crazy peak? That's not believable. Anyway, let's let's show, please show a bar chart that plots sales and revenue by month. Now this, we should see an interesting thing that happened. Like I said, I think around 9 months ago, I forget when, maybe it wasn't that long ago, somewhere in there, where we started charging first $1, and then we raised it up more to like $4 per script, or you can pay a flat fee and have access to all the stuff under $5. Yeah, here we go. So orders used to be, a lot higher, and then you see them right in here in April drop down. But the sales, other than this one big giant peak, which was from memory, that seems about when that was, they were like nothing, or our revenue, but now the revenue has been going up and up, every month, right? So good trend on that. And, that was a big drop down in sales. So it's really fascinating because you'd think sales and revenue have a positive correlation, but in our case, they don't. Now, if I was to say, let's say, please recreate that in a scatter plot, also including 2 linear regression lines for orders and revenue. Also show me the R square of each. Hey, my effortless video reducer, let me show you while it's running that. I just ran some movies through it, and it's 8% the size of the originals, and I bet I can't even tell the difference in the quality. It does an amazing job of shrinking files. And I saved, let's see, it tells me there. I saved, I think it's 6.7 gigs. So cool. Anyway, back to this. Now, regression, there's a lot of assumptions with regression, and I shouldn't, especially on time, that breaks one of the assumptions, is that the X and Y coordinates are independent of each other, but time is clearly a linear thing, right? So that breaks it right there. But it still will behave in a certain way, so that's okay. And it's going to plot them. Okay, that's cuckoo. What is with the scale? But this is very, very interesting. We see, these data points all here, and you can see there's definitely a pattern in these here. But notice also there's funnel shapes. This is called heteroscedasticity, which is when there's a funnel shape at one end of your chart. All the data is grouped together. At the other end, it's expanded, right? And we see the inverse, one's going one, one's going the other, and that's a sign that you got to transform your data because they're not equally distributed. They need to be homoscedastic, so it's equal distribution around the regression. Although it didn't give me a regression line, although it did give me orders show a strong negative correlation. So it's explaining 73% of the variance. And revenue trends show a weak correlation because it's just for whatever reason. I think it's just trying to, I don't think it did that right. Because this one also, although there are some outliers, like that one there, so we should remove that one and this outlier. So November of 2022 and September of 2022. Please remove the outliers of November 2022 and September 2022. Now that'll help with the R-square for revenue, and it's still going to have the funnel shape because I didn't ask it to transform the data. I just said remove those. Which, when you have outliers like that, especially that one, that's a crazy one, right? That is breaking the R-square really bad. I don't know why it didn't do the trend line, but I should have asked for that. And I don't know why. There's probably some data point far off to the right, which, of course, makes no sense. But because there's no future there, unless it was trying to project already. It's recalculating regression lines, but I don't think it's drawing the regression lines, so I'll have to ask for that. But that we also want to deal with that issue with the data. Of course, it's nothing, right? So I can't see any data. When you read raw, please transform both orders and revenue by, let's say, logging them. I could have phrased that a lot better, but that should work. Also, I want to see the regression line of best fit. Yeah, you don't have to add that, but I am. So maybe that'll clean it up, and hopefully we can actually see it in the chart. That might be nice. But imagine doing this, like crunching your numbers and having to figure this out with a statistical tool, and it's much more cumbersome. Also, I want to clarify, I know what I'm looking, I don't know the answer, don't get me wrong, but I know what to look out for, and I know almost always you need to log or square root the data, or even square it. It just depends on the relationships to get it to be more linear, because a lot of people use regression really incorrectly, and they have either curvilinear data or this heteroscedasticity, which really screws with the R-squared values. The regression line often is still pretty close, but the R-squared values are way over what they should be. So you need to really do it properly. You need to clean that up and decide if you're going to drop out those outliers, because those greatly affect the scores. Of course, I can't see anything, but the R-squared values are much, much better now. I don't know if I can scroll. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. But you can see the scale when they logged both of them. That's why these are, but for whatever reason, they're not being displayed. I apologize. I'm an idiot. But it's one of the best things you can do when you're planning to do some sort of analysis is figure out ahead of time what you're trying to do. And even if you need to draw it out on a piece of paper and then figure out how to make that, like, that's better, sort of. I don't know why it goes so cuckoo on the scale, time scale. There's no reason for all this error over here. And it just makes this, harder to see the relationship. So what I'll often do is go look at my data, get the min and max, and use those as the anchors for your graphs, right? And I think if I was to build a project in Claude and build in a lot of the stuff that I'm aware of that you need to make sure you do, it probably would be doing a much better job at first crack. Oh, look at that, that's better. I don't understand. Oh, error, yeah. I just click this to try to fix it. Yeah, it'll try to do stuff that's like interactive, and I noticed that. And like, guys, you gotta walk before you run. Why build this stuff interactively? Why not make sure you get the simple stuff to run first, and then later add where you can make it interactive and cool, so to speak? I know you think it's a program, but when AI is writing the program, it's just far, at least right now, buggier than what you might think. Now that's looking interesting, although way too linear. And although I don't know what those I'm afraid to move my mouse on it, but the bottom green ones in the bottom left corner, those seem nuts. And then everything else is so linear. Like it doesn't at all make sense. So I don't know what's going on, but you get the idea, right? It's still, let's switch gears and let's go back to say, can you just show a bar chart by quarter and project out 2 years. So we're going to simplify what we're doing. Hopefully it gets this one right. And now it's right in the program over here instead of over there. I don't know. And here I should be able to switch and look at the code here behind it, and the preview shows me, it like kind of runs it and says, here's how it's going to look. Right now, I don't know why it's now doing it over here, generating, then it'll shift back over there. Yeah, it's still early days. So yeah, personally, I would still dump this into Excel or SPSS and crunch the numbers, but I definitely see that it's got great potential, right? Because there's so many things that I know I need to check for, but most people don't. Of course it has an error. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, what? Here's your historical data. You had actually, it's got that outlier again, which I think it should have left out, but we can remove that. The trend should have been up, and then all of a sudden, the projection is I'm gonna suck. Like, I don't know what they're trying to tell me. Probably, okay, that's interesting, and I purposely did this with my data. November's not a full month, and it didn't take that into account, and it's using that as the locally weighted data. So, first off, remove the outlier. Oops, outlier of revenue around 2022. Probably because I switched to quarters. Quarter 3, 22 Q3. And think you're not taking to that November. I know I misspelled it. 124 is not a full quarter. Thus, your projections so that one, they should have first estimated for the last quarter in this year, what would it look like get, and then go back, use that estimate in looking back over trend and forecast forward. Because this is clearly, if you look at the last couple of years, we've been having a nice trend and going up, and this trend you would think would keep going up, not take a nosedive, right? But I can pretty much guarantee you what was going on was that this isn't the end of the quarter, and even if I had done the month, it's in the middle of the month, and so it would have to do the same thing if I went by week. It should have worked, or should have been very small dip because it's you know, but we bill every 2 weeks, so even though I did every week, it wouldn't have changed much. But I could have said only use data up through a certain time point and project forward. Oh, that's what? Yeah, great. Now I'm going to be getting what, 2.6 million or something like that per month. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So perfect. This is how you get rich. When can you send me a check? Because that's Looneyvin. What? You can't send me a check? I don't understand. But yeah, you get the idea. Now let's say what else? What else is it? What are other? You can't just tell me the headers? Like, that's dumb. So, oh, jeez. Canceled orders, renewals, on hold. I didn't know I had any hold. Abandoned, failed, revoked, refunded, completed, monthly sales, activity. So it's really just, yeah, nothing too specific. Although, is there a type? This is where, honestly, sometimes it's just easier to look at your data, and that's one thing. SPSS has an amazing data view tool that you can really easily poke around your data, filter it, and do stuff. It's my biggest complaint, and maybe it's been 10 years since I played with it, but it was really hard to do it. And same thing with Python at the time. Hopefully they've gotten better. Now those are free tools, right? So, and SPSS can easily cost like $1,500 a year to purchase for an individual, or a lot more if you're at a company. See, this is just Looney Bins at how slow it is at writing the code to take a look at it versus if I just had the Excel file or a SQL file, it would pull up. There we go. So orders, amount, lead, amount. So yeah, there's and I can't scroll. I don't know how would I scroll. There we go. Okay. Net activity orders. Those orders always nope. There's something in amount net activity. So suddenly that started having stuff. I don't know what in the world that is. But the orders 2022, 2021. Oh, it's not the full data set. So okay. What's this called? Order refunds. Yeah, I don't have a lot of refunds, thankfully. But yeah, you get the idea, right? So you can play with it. I still, boy, it's not there yet to really be helping me too much. You might import open ends and ask it, hey, what's the most common response? Like, I think it'd probably do a pretty good job of summarizing write-ins or something. But for doing your quant stuff for now, I'd say stick with, using Excel or some sort of tool. But it's still got a lot of promise, right? And I'd say another 6 months, come back and revisit it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Like the video if you learned something. Cheers.